study a little bit of design theory, and lately came up, I was studying about golden mean spiral. Apparently if you design something and you design it according to this geometric pattern, it comes out very beautiful. You don't see it with the naked eye, but if you can actually see how it's set to divine proportions, there's something about it that communicates beauty and harmony, balance to the human eye. Has anyone had opportunity to study about sacred geometry, or have anyone heard of this idea? Yeah, okay. So pretty much if you look in numbers, there's divine numbers, or you could say infinite numbers. Do you know what I'm talking about? Is anyone following?
Nope.
Any infinite numbers, a number that just keeps going on forever. Pi, it's as easy as pi, right? So pi is just a number. If you divide, I forgot what, 8 by 7 or I don't know, but it just keeps going on and going on and going on.
10 by 3.
What is it?
10 by 3.
10 by 3, that's right. 10 by 3. So you get pi. So actually, a lot of intelligent people had noticed these type of patterns in nature. And Fibonacci, he was a person who noticed the Fibonacci sequence. He named it after himself. And he noticed that flowers, every flower, there's different leaves, and there's a different number of petals. And they usually multiply in a certain way. So you have 2, then 4, and then 4 plus 2 is 6. 6 plus 4 is 10. 10 plus 6 is 16. 16 plus 10. In other words, the number, you keep adding it to the number before, and it keeps going on. And so he found in nature, you have these natural patterns, these natural sequences. This is pretty interesting. And we can't ever forget the canon of man. Does anyone know what that is? Looks like a guy who's doing jumping jacks in a little circle. Does anyone know who painted that? Or who? Leonardo da Vinci? Okay. So we have some intelligentsia in the audience. Leonardo da Vinci, he wrote this canon of man, or he drew this canon of man picture. So it's a circle around a naked guy with kind of long hair, hippie. He's like jumping jacks. And then actually if you do a square around his body, then wherever the circle and the square meet, you can actually do some dividing there. I forgot what is this, the circumference, I don't know how it works, but you take the length of the square and then you divide it by the circumference of the circle, and you get another ratio, another divine number. Does anyone know what that one is? It's more popular amongst New Age audience. It's called phi ratio. So a lot of people didn't know that, with the phi ratio. So actually, phi ratio is really amazing. It's found in everything in nature. If you look at your hand, the reason that the fingers are measured a certain length in proportion to each other, then that's due to the phi ratio. If you take the length of your foot, there's a certain amount of that length that goes from your head to your toe, and it's the same for everyone. And he found that in the canon of man, you have the circle around him, and if you, from his head to the top of the circle, there's another circle. If you take that little circle and the bigger circle, in proportion to the earth and its moon, it's the same. So the idea is that there's a continuity of nature. There's a design, if you will, of nature. There's patterns in nature. So this, people who study nature and who try to look into the codes, the sequences, they try to find the answers of life. Such persons are called philosophers. People want to know, how did these patterns come about? What is the origin of life? So basically, you have two kinds of philosophers. from the beginning of time. You've always had these two different groups. You've had the group that says, look at these patterns, the golden mean spiral, the phi ratio. It all means something. It's all saying something. There's a designer. There's an intelligent designer. And then there's the other group of philosophers who say, you fool. There's no designer. It's just nature. Nature's coming up with this, and how it does it, we don't know, but we're figuring it out. We're finding it out. So we have this other group, you could say scientists, but there's scientists on both sides. But you have this intelligent designer, and then you have this, I don't know what they call it. You could say atheism. But, okay, because even some atheists believe in intelligent design. It gets a little complex. But basically you have these two philosophies, and basically we're trying to understand what is the origin of existence. Why are we here? Was there some divine being who created all this? Or did it just happen by chance? This is what we mostly hear in the mainstream, the secular educational system, that chemicals collided over millions and billions and trillions of years, and over gradual evolution, then everything is the way that it is. So if you look at the world's religions, the world's religious traditions, pretty much a great majority of all religious traditions in the world subscribe to not just creationism, but that there is a person, a supreme being, if you will. And actually, if you look in the dictionary, you'll find this word, God. It's kind of a funny sounding word, actually, if you think about it. God. It's like, okay, it's kind of... But if you look at the definition, it means the supreme being. So it indicates a person, that there was a person who created everything in life. A majority of the world's religions in different times, different cultures and places have found this to be their philosophical conclusion, their revelation, their aspiration to commune with a personal God. But you can't say that that's all the religions in the world. Other religions subscribe to another form of religion where they admit that there's something supreme, there's something divine, there's something transcendent, but it's not a person. And they vary accordingly. They'll say it's energy. We are all energy. And then others say it's the light. It's the great white light. Others say it's spirit. We're all one. And this is very common also in India today. If people studying yoga, a lot of people go to India to continue their yoga practice, and they want some philosophy. And when they go there, most likely they're going to meet this philosophy that says, Jagan Mitya, Brahma, what is it?
Brahma Satyam.
Brahma Satyam, Jagan Mitya. Means this whole world is an illusion. Everything you're seeing is false. It doesn't really exist. But there's one thing that's true and that exists. It's spirit. It's God. What's God? We are all God. But we've forgotten. You have to just do a little yoga. You do a little meditation. And you'll realize that all of us individuals, we're not individuals. You're not you. I'm not me. We're one individual. But in illusion, we think that we're all different. But when we come to our real state, we'll realize that I am the sun. I am the wind that blows. It is because of fear of me that rain falls, So people believe this. And there's good reasons for this. A lot of people have come to find that there is a underlying intelligence that we're all connected to and a part of. And on some levels, it seems almost logical that we should come to a state of oneness to where we do not even differentiate our own intelligence or abilities from the source of life. So there's a lot of philosophies, but basically we can divide them into two. So if we actually look at reality, let's just come back to the practical world. The practical world, if you just look at reality, you'll see that reality is quite complex. It's not that it's one or the other. In fact, reality is like that. There's always both. Whatever contradictions there are, there's always both. There's always the biggest of the biggest, and then you always have the smaller than the smallest. So you always have these two, you have light and dark. You always have these two opposing forces. So one good example I heard, which kind of illuminated how both can also coexist, was just like a recording. This recorder's recording, the video is recording. And if once we put this videotape on the internet, then somebody's going to see it and say, hey, look, that's you. And I'm going to say, yeah, that's me. That's me. But then if I take a more intelligent look, then I'll say, wait a minute, but I'm right here. So how can that be me in the little computer box? Am I like living in the little box, like feed me, send me some food? It's like, no, I'm really here, but that's just a recording. But it's like, oh, so that's not you. It's like, well, yeah, that is me though. Well, I don't get it. I'm confused. Well, okay, let me explain it. It's because of me that I'm existing that recording is able to exist. So it's me in so far that it's my energy, meaning that it recorded me, the person, but it's not really me. It's a separated energy. But you can't say that, hey, that's not Giriraj, and I'll say, no, that's definitely me. And you can go on debate like that forever. But we have to understand it's a subtle thing. It's actually not me. It's a machine, it's a picture, it's projecting. But based on my existence, it can exist and portray me. So this is a really important point, that both the impersonal and the personal can coexist. And if you just look at your own self, you will find the answer. How is that? When somebody dies, the body might die. Unfortunately, I had a friend, his mother died when I was very young. It was a very sad incident. But I think they were water skiing, and she had heart problems, and she had a heart attack. Very sad. And he was there, and that was one of the biggest realizations of his life, was there she was. She was sitting right in front of me, but she wasn't there. She wasn't there anymore. So it's shocking when you come to that realization that, look, there's the body of the person I love, but the person, the energy, the personality is gone. So that's exactly what we are. We're a combination of impersonal, which is just matter, and then we have the spirit. So similarly, many great philosophers, very sophisticated philosophers of all types of traditions in the world have come to this similar conclusion. Both is true. If you seek the absolute truth, if you seek what is the source of life, you'll see that there is a oneness within all things, like the pi ratio, the phi ratio. And there seems to be this intelligence which is all pervading everything. And we're all part of this cosmic organism. When I was seeking many years ago, I'm still seeking, but when I would say at the beginning of my seekings, then I came to this idea, the galaxy, it's the supreme entity, because it's just a spiral and we're all part of it. And actually the whole galaxy is like one cosmic consciousness. So that was my goal, is to merge my consciousness with the cosmic consciousness. And it worked out for a little while, but then it wasn't too satisfying, because I still felt myself to be an individual, right? So it's like, okay, I feel like I'm the galaxy, but I still got to work, or live and do practical things. So really, if you look at it, we are interconnected, but you can see that the personality is always the most important. And I'll end right here, but I just want to give you a few examples of why this is important. If you look into history, as I mentioned before, most cultures are theistic. They believe in a personal God, a deity, a person whom you can interact with. But there's many cultures who didn't believe that. But if you study them, this is a very interesting point. Each of these cultures who tried to eradicate a personal deity or a personal god, they ended up becoming monotheistic in some sense. Buddhism, when Buddhism started, Buddha rejected the Vedas. He rejected the idea of a personal god. And he preached his philosophy of Buddhism attaining a state of oneness or voidism. Over time, the movement, what happened? It started becoming Hinduism again. How did that? They started worshiping Buddha in the temple, and they started to offer him food, and they started to worship him. And then even the philosophy changed. In some school of Buddhism, Pure Land Buddhism, that's their aspiration, is to go home to Buddha. So in other words, Buddha became sort of a god, which in his philosophy he didn't care to elaborate on. So there's many examples of this. Even the scientists say, oh, we're all chemicals. And there's a really funny play. There's a scientist. He says, we're all just chemicals. Everything's chemicals, and you don't have to fear death. It's just superstition, religion. And then a robber comes up and asks him, give me all your money. And he's like, okay, take the money. And so in the wallet, he's like, oh, who's that? Who's that fat little molecule? Who's that ugly looking molecule? And he's like, hey, that's my wife. And then he's like, oh, and who's those little ugly looking proton and neutrons there? And he's like, hey, those are my children. So it's like, okay, it's all chemicals, but there's something more than the chemicals, which is he values. So even the scientists who say there's no God, there's no creator, still the most important thing in their life is a personal relationship with a person. So you can study many cultures and religions, and you'll find these things that's very interesting, that the human nature, either by philosophical assessment or by even anthropomorphism, they'll attribute human qualities to God, or even animal qualities. There is some kind of need for human beings to have a relationship with a divine or supremely divine person. So, but the beauty, I would say, which had been elaborated in the Vedas, is that it's not simply one or the other, it's a combination of both. And when you fully understand these both, how they can simultaneously exist, then true harmony, true beauty is found in these paths.